Well, good evening, and nice to see you. It's a lovely Tuesday evening here in delightful land. I hope you had a good day so far. Or if you're in a different time zone, you're gonna have a good day. Um, it's uh, it's been a good day actually, really productive. Got loads done, and really ticked off my to-do list, which made me happy. But for tonight, actually, one of the things we're going to try and do on a regular basis, we'll see how it goes, is to work through a book. And I'll just let me just show you the book. So one of the books I picked up when I first started looking at flight sim again is the Flight Simulator. It's actually for an older version. I think if you've cut into the stream before, you would have seen me talk about this. But this is Flight Simulator X book. It's actually really detailed, and yeah, it's out of date for some things, but it's kind of detailed enough to be useful. We can work through it. But the goal really is yeah, we play around with the simulator, and we have tried to fly properly here and there, but and I don't want to make it boring. It's about enjoying what we're doing, but it's also a case of let's learn to fly properly. We've got really good tools to do that. We've got yeah, I think one of the best flight simulators on the market. It's up there with your DCSs and so forth. I think there's more out there that is more what they call study level, which is where planes and things are actually more detailed, and they've got better flight physics and things like that. But actually, some of the planes inside Flight Simulator 2020 now are getting there. So I don't think I really want to fly a real plane, and I think this is enough. It comes with a fair amount of learning, and we can do quite a lot in it. So with that in mind, just to give you a heads up, I've been flying Flight Simulator really for about a year, but no, only recently have I started putting more effort into it and more tools around it. So if you caught my previous stream, you know I've got a yoke now, a throttle cluster, and some rudders or rudder pedals rather, and they act as both rudder, steering, and brakes, and you get used to those. And one of the things actually in the book is how to use that to slipstream. So we'll come on to that. I don't think it's going to be anything too heavy. We may just go for a spin around as well occasionally. And if you've got suggestions in the chat, please feel free to jump in there and have a chat with me. I'm more than happy to just hold things back and just fly in circles and have a conversation. So, but with that, let's have a look at the book and start on our way. So, I haven't quite got all the hotkeys up yet, so we'll come back to that. But there we go. So I looked at chapter 1, and chapter 1 is really about learning to fly properly and having to go to flight school and so forth, which is all well and good, but I don't live in America, and if I did, it would probably be affordable, but not in this country, in the UK, that's for sure. One of the interesting things that came with this book is this bookmark. It's obviously been around a bit, but kind of nicely dated. It's not super old. I mean, you've got these Garmin running things. Bit of Nando's advert and Barber. So I'm guessing this was, I don't know, when was the date? There's no, 2019. So yeah, 5 years ago, just before it happened. So we're going to be flying a Piper J3 Cub, and that is a pretty basic plane. We'll go through that once we get started, but we'll see where they want us to take off from. And it's the idea really is that it's got no fancy features as much as it's enough for you to learn how to fly and not have the distractions of GPS and things like that. It's really just, you know, kind of seat your pants flying. But the difference in a game simulator really is you don't really get all the feedback you would normally get from being in a plane. Same as if you do a car game, you don't really get all the feedback from the car. So, but let's press into this. Okay, so. So the guy here really talks about aeronautics engineers, and his name is Jeff Van West. You can get this book on eBay easily enough, plenty of them. But planes, we all have our limits. Just think about the wing of an airplane. The faster it moves through the air, the more air molecules and the more air mass it encounters each second. So the faster an airplane flies, the greater potential for lift. Well, we have that. So it's cool. Logic dictates that must be some point where the slight angle of your hand. This is the hand out the window when you're driving a car. You know, when you push up, you can feel the resistance. I'll try and get my hand in the camera. There we go. So that's your hand, and then you put it out the window and you push it up, and you can feel the pressure, and it pushes your hand away. That's when you get to the point of stall. And planes do stall, especially low powered ones, and they've got really something you have to take into account, because that can actually kill you if you do it wrong, or you just end up in some trees and things. So yeah. So the angle attack at low surface take into account the oncoming wind. Okay. I'm not going to read this word for word because that would be quite dull. But we're really going to pick up on the lessons it brings forwards. So, and please just drop in if you want. You know, if the camera's not good enough and things like that. So there's straight and level flight, there's climbing flight, there's descending flight. And one of the diagrams here just shows that straight and level flight, gravity pulling against your aircraft all the time. You're trying to gain lift to fight gravity, and you want to try and straight and level flight, and then you can lift and drop. Visualizing the control surfaces, you've got sit inside the cockpit with controls. Right, so let's do that. Let's get to the other particular airport we want to take off from. No. Oh, Post Mills Airport. Okay, that's there. So let's get into the game. Right, so we want to. We've got. It's kind of a version of a Cub, but it's not actually the one from the game, from the book. But I think it's okay. If we need to, we'll buy a better model or a more closer model. So Post Mills, no idea where that is. Post Mills. Okay, obviously in the States. Yeah, moving over to the States now. And we're going to do this on. Should we do it in clear weather? Just for simplicity, because we're really taking the day out. So preset clear skies, and we'll come back to so a few clouds to make it a bit more interesting to look at. And what day of time we're doing? Probably let's go for. I think if I was learning to fly, I'd probably want to do that pretty early in the morning. Probably earlier than this, but I don't think the instructor want to get up. So yeah, not unless I paid him. But it'd be nice to see a sunset, sunrise. Is that too early? No, it'll be fine. Okay. So don't really know much about the weather, so we'll go in and see. But we're on clear skies anyway, so there won't be much going on. And if you're in chat and you want to pop back to the game screens, the book screens, we can always do that as well. I think maybe I'll shrink the size of that again because it's a little bit too in your face. Okay, this looks like a nice place. It's a grass runway, which is always exciting. Okay, so first thing that happens is the plane stops because my controls are set up to not be, well, sitting on the ground basically. So we've got battery off and magnetos are off. So first thing we need to do is pull the choke out. For some reason my throttle doesn't like that. So we'll quick look at the plane while we're here. It looks alright. It's pretty basic. Nice big wheels, so it doesn't complain about bouncing too much. Okay. And what we've got in front of us is the vertical. I don't know if I doesn't need to zoom in really. So vertical speed indicator. Really, that's showing showing a level flight, but it will show if we're heading upwards or heading downwards, and how fast we're doing that. If you really want to keep within that range there, it's deliberately set there, and the plane will actually brake on the basis that you've overstressed it. Altitude wise, let's just set the barometer. I think that's fine. So we're the actual site we're at is 700 foot, which is cool. Something to remember that. We're not going any speed, so that's that. The engine's off, so there's no RPMs. And what's this? Oil pressure? Nothing there because we haven't got the power on, and these won't indicate until we get power on as well. So let's turn in the battery line, power on, and a bit of throttle. So if I zoom out a bit, you'll be able to see the throttle. Yeah. And we pulled the mixture out, so we don't want a lot of throttle to start. About there will do. And put the brakes on because this plane doesn't actually have parking brakes. Now we're started. So from the outside, a bit more juice. So I've got the brakes on, so there's that. Okay. So one of the things obviously, if you know your airplanes, they have control surfaces, and they include elevator, make sure I get these right. I'm sure someone will tell me either way. Ailerons and rudder. So rudder is my control. Okay. So he's just walking through. That. Make that a bit smaller. It's quite hard to have that and the game on the screen and be worthwhile, but excuse me while I adjust the OBS while I'm here. So I'm trying to actually learn this myself, so it's not so much for your entertainment, apart from the fact that I'm here doing it, but hopefully it covers everyone. So interesting. Okay, so fuel cut-off valve, pull this back. You're going to be using control, throttle, tachometer we talked about, airspeed indicator, which is that bit of vertical speed indicator I talked about. Oh, airspeed indicator is actually this center column, and this is where this differs from the one in the book a little bit. Because if you see, like the cockpit here is quite sparse. I think a little bit of that is the old version of the flight simulator, but also maybe I'll get another model. But it's got crazy things like actually we can't see fuel on this one, can we? That can be exciting for someone one day. Okay, luckily we're not going to fly very far. You can actually see fuel if you kind of go into the modern day and head up here. And you go, where is it? Wait, and that will tell you that we've currently got 50% of our fuel. We can refuel here as well, but that is seriously cheating, I think. we're trying to keep it down to sort of as real as we can. We've got a compass, which I didn't actually mention, down in the middle here. Probably can't see it that well, but zoom down. That gives you an indication of where you are. In better planes, more modern planes, you'll see both the compass and a heading indicator, but you don't get that in this one. Inclinometer. So that's one feature. I really should get that other model actually, because it doesn't have an inclinometer. I'll try and say that one small time. Inclinometer. There you go. So it doesn't have one of those. And what that is basically is it's kind of an indication of how your plane is orientated. And it's quite good from the point of view of switching control, which we need to learn about. But maybe next week we'll have that. Altimeter, that's there. There. And we, like I said, it was at 700. Oil temperature and pressure gauge. Now we've got the power on, we can actually see that. So we've got oil pressure. It's a little bit low, but I should think if I throttle it and all brakes on, yeah, same as a car, it pumps the oil around and everything's lovely. If you had no oil pressure, then basically you've got no oil, and you've got a very bad engine, so life's not good. Oil temperature, pressure, primer. There's a basic pump primer apparently, which I didn't see. Is that down here? No, they'll be down on the bottom here, won't it? Anyway. Didn't have to do that anyway because the engine started. Mixture control we talked about there. Engine choke, basically mixture. So full out is very rich, and then full in is lean. So as you get higher, you find that the book says is you would get into low pressure, high thinner air, and this meant that engines would be getting too much fuel for the oxygen that's available. So to burn it, the mixture control reduces the amount of air fuel. This is called leaning, not leaning, but leaning. And that this really only affects the plane once it gets to a fairly decent high altitude, or actually if it starts at that high altitude, so just starting on a mountain or whatever, you're actually already at an altitude, and you need to take that into account. Carburetor heat, again, don't think this version of the plane's got one. Strobe lights, yeah, I've got strobe lights there, that's exciting. Yep, so let's quick look down here. No, okay, and that would allow you to start playing in colder weather or colder climes. Okay, and a door handle, which is nice to know. So we've already started the engine, but it described in the book after the conduct pre-flight checks. So what we should, well, I think we actually did, is actually go around the plane, do the various controls, make sure life's good, and they work. I'd be really surprised if the simulator didn't work, but actually nowadays you can actually get planes that break and start getting problems. So that's a thing in itself. It's quite cool actually. So we've now got the throttles in idle and ticking over nicely. Fuel cut-off valve on. Press the mixture knob. Fully rich, we did. Use the primer to inject some squirts of fuel. Actually, the primer might be that one next to it. Is that primer? Hot air entry, so that's for warming it up. Let's see the next master, which we can actually turn on. There we go. We're not going to use those though. In this flight. Walk around the front of the plane, spin the propeller 3 or 4 times. Can't do that really. But you are supposed to shout, clear, I should think, or shout prop, and anyone around it should know that around the plane will know that you're actually going to start it, and maybe they should get out of the way, or they'll end up with an Indiana Jones style incident, which will not end well for them. We turn the cockpit, untie the tail. We've got no wheel chocks on this particular model of the plane, but in other ones I've seen chocks either side of the wheels that basically just stop you from rolling or unexplained movement forwards, which is basically your throttle. So if I do some of that without the brakes on, you can see that with chocks it might be good, but you see a little, actually one of the things, if you see that little jump forwards, that's how you end up tipping the plane into the floor and making it go back. So, yeah, then they talk about how you can cheat and just start there. So flight simulation start cold, which is basically a cold and dark engine. You basically go through the whole process of starting it. I quite like that. When you start on a runway, it starts with the plane warm and ready to go, except you have to make sure your controls are set, because what happens is the controls are set to nothing and the whole thing shuts down. Excuse me. All right. So what's the first thing we need to do? Differential brakes. So taxiing. Now that you have your engine running, it's time to move the cover around the ground. First, pull the yoke or joystick all the way back. This deflects the elevators up, keeps the tail on the ground. So that's actually a really good tip. And if we do that, we won't end up doing that hop when we accelerate, I think, and brake. No, that's really good. I didn't know that. So we let the brakes off, slowly put them on, and because the plane's being pushed downwards, it won't suddenly nosedive. Maybe a bit there. Okay. And we need to steer the plane with a rudder. This means you using your feet to drive the pedals. This is really strange the first time you do it, because it's a bit like rubbing your belly and sort of tapping your head type thing. Because cars you steer with the steering wheel, but planes actually pull back. So planes you steer like this, which is basically me moving my feet. And this particular plane, this is what's called a tail dragger. Well, that's the term for when it's got a tail wheel rather than at the front. And most planes now, I think almost all planes now, have front wheel, a tripod at the front of the plane rather than having it at the back. Good reasons for that. Well, one of the reasons for tail dragger is they're much better in grassy areas. So if you're on a grass runway, they tend to be more stable. But when you're taking off and landing, you'll see this. You can't really see very much out the front. So if I do that, but what can you see? And the reasoning for that is well, just the fact the inclination of the plane. So cool. So let's brake and get back on the runway. Sick. Ooh, every time I try and chuck it into the floor. Not clever. Okay. So what he's really saying is maybe sit a bit further back and look there to be able to see where, if you can see where my mouse is, look there or there to see where you are on the runway. Now, there is no runway, which makes it more exciting. So maybe we'll head off to where we started. So at least we're on something like a grass runway. We'll get ourselves a decent run up as well. Right. Swap that so we're seeing only the game for a while. And me. Maybe I should have chose clear weather, because it's starting to get a bit dodgy out here. Okay, there we go. So this runway if we step outside for a minute, this runway basically goes up there past the hangar, and then you run out of steam. So probably could go a bit further back. There's not much. When it says runway, there's not much of a runway really. But if you look at this circle, you can actually use that for navigation when you're coming back in. So it's quite handy. Okay. Right. So conventional landing gear. So one of the things, it's not obvious, and this is what's called conventional landing gear. Is the approach where you have the tail wheel, and fixed. Well, in this case, fixed front wheels. So you can't actually raise the undercarriage. But they're there. It's difficult. Yeah, as I said, difficult to taxi because the center of gravity of the plane is that you'll tilt it backwards. Something. So this is interesting. So what they're saying here really is in this section is it's really it's showing that a shopping cart with water in it, a water container in it, acts like the back of a plane, so it tends to wander all over the place. And you'll see that as long as your rear wheels are generally behind the front of the wheel, it's easy to see it. But if you try and turn it around, you'll end up with it going for a wander. And it's called a ground loop. And the low speed ground loop in a real plane results in some embarrassment. High speed ground loops result in a call to the insurance company at least. So something to be careful of. Around about 1940, he says the aircraft moved to a tricycle gear configuration with one medium-sized wheel at the front and two main wheels. The planes are much easier to taxi. Don't look as cool, apparently. I think I can agree with that. So takeoff. You can take off in a tail wheel airplane like a Cub in two ways. One is to advance the throttle and just wait, and the plane will eventually fly off the ground. And if the trim's all correct, and we'll talk about trim later, it comfortably climbs, and at some point in the process between standstill and lifting off into the air, the tail will rise. And the other way is to take off and actually lift the tail up intentionally, creating lift. This is the kind of land. Oh, okay. This is the kind of takeoff we recommend because we like to see where we're going. And the S turns during the highest power takeoff are not good for your longevity. So what he's basically saying is we kind of do that and power it up, and we try and get the plane up on its two wheels earlier than just going in a straight line and waiting for it to take off on its own. So, a drink. Okay. Just going to look at something. Still here, just looking at something. Hold on a second. Yeah, I'll change that. No, not sure what to do with that. Something missing on my screen. Yeah. Okay, so the title of this stream says quick stream test and flight, and it's actually completely wrong. I'll show my stupidity because I do not know how to change it right now. It'd be good if there was like an edit button there. Oh well. Okay, I'll carry on anyway. So there's one of the acronym, is it an acronym? No. Nomenclatures, I suppose you can call this, called cigar, and they cover it in the book. It's controls. So C is controls of free and correct, which we've already done. Instrument set. The only instruments here are in the cub. It's the alternate we care about, and we'll set that in chapter 13, which is cool. Gas, some aircraft. So CIG, gas, have more than one gas tank. I've actually had this problem where the plane actually has two gas tanks and you have to rotate them between left and right, or forget to turn them on at all, but that tends to kill you. But if you imagine you're flying on the left fuel tank all the time and that runs out, the plane stops. But you can turn it to the other tank if you remember to do that. Otherwise, you just stop and you wonder why. The altimeter, this is a reminder of to make sure the trim of the plane is proper position to out. I don't know if you can actually do much with that. Run up or engine ready. So just to make sure the plane's nice and ready for its flight. So that's C for controls, I for instruments, G for gas, A for altitude, and R for run up. So that's cigar. This is quite an easy thing to remember. And if you don't get a cigar, don't get a cigar. So that's that. So right then. So now we're being told to raise. Oh, so we're actually going to take off. So this is pretty exciting. So we're going to raise the. I'll just pop it back on the book for a minute. So I mean, it seems obvious, but you raise the throttle, you pull back on the yoke, you keep the yoke full back, use your feet to steer for about 3 seconds. Now push the yoke forwards and the tail of the wheel should rise. You'll suddenly be able to see where you're going. Then 3 seconds is key, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so when the tail comes up, however, the airplane seems to turn to left. This is true, and you have to make sure you depends how throttled up you are, but there's a gyroscopic effect of that propeller spinning at the front and basically trying to turn the whole plane that way and that way. I suppose to use, yeah, no, that's fine. So it's trying to pull over to the left all the time. So you have to use the rudder to adjust for that, but also don't over throttle it. Is the important thing. You can actually take off fairly easily with not a huge amount of throttle. But the whole plane is basically trying to spin on its axis, and it's got wheels holding it down, so it just turns. So it can be quite exciting. I think it's really common in every plane, really, but in the small ones, so it's single engine, that's just going to happen. But it's quite good practice. So keep the rudder. Using the rudder, keep your face pointed down towards the end of the runway. Now you can imagine at the moment you can't see the runway. Since the tail is in the air, the rudder is keeping directional control. Okay. So let's have a run down the runway and see what happens. So brakes are on. Yoke is that stick in the middle there. It's not actually a yoke at all. It's just a controller like that. Not sure what the button on top does. Probably not much in this model. No. Okay. So What do you say? Pull back? I don't believe that. Is that correct? Keep the yoke full back using your feet to steer. Now push the yoke forwards. Okay, fine. Yoke back, throttle up, and let the brakes out. 1, 2, 3, push forwards, and maybe a bit faster. 1, 2, 3, push. There we go. And straight into the front. Maybe not quite so much. No, I kind of deliberately did that. Obviously, no. It was more. How far do you need to push it forwards to make that work? So let's have another go. So back off the power. Brakes off. Pull back. Push forwards. Maybe you just need to push forwards until the tail comes up. And back. There, it's balancing it there. So if I just pop outside, it's really hard to steer it when it's like that. So we've now got the tail up in the air, and we're going down the wrong way. And we can do this all day, but at some point we're going to crash. So let's get out of the way of that. And we're actually in the air because the plane is so light. So let's turn the throttle up a bit, and we're airborne, which is cool. Okie dokie. So I don't really know. Well, I do know a bit more about this, but let's just go with it. So the weather's not great, really, but I'm coming round. Fly away from the airport and then airfield, and then just turn. And come back towards it. And what we want to do is actually be able to see it again. Oh, interesting. Maybe we need to get a bit higher just so we can see the airfield again. That's a real problem when there's no markings on it. Maybe we're looking for the building. Interestingly, stream was a bit juddery, so sorry about that. Not sure why. Okay. Oh, I see it. Right, okay. We're going to come over this way. And we'll see it on our right, I think. Maybe. Interesting. No, I was looking for that circular thing, wasn't I? There we go. There we go. So we're just going to come back over the wrong way. I'm not going to try and land or anything just yet. I want to just go back to the book for a second and have a look at what they suggest from the point of view of next things to do. So let's just pause it there. And go back to the book. Okay. So P factor and slipstreaming effect is really interesting. This when the aircraft's climbing, the descending blade of the propeller actually has a higher angle of attack to the wind than the ascending blade. So that's going that way and coming up. Since the downward turning blade is on the right side of the plane, as seen from the pilot's point of view. Yeah. The right side of the plane propeller is applying more force to the left in the climb. The spinning propeller also creates a kind of vortex around the fuselage of the plane. Okay, and since it's applying more force from the left to the climb, the airplane tends to turn to the left and requires right rudder to climb straight again. The spinning propeller also creates a third a kind of vortex around the fuselage of the plane. This applies more pressure on the left side, which is also what turns the plane to the left. So this is the slipstreaming effect of the whole plane arguing with you and trying to make you go in a particular direction. I'm not sure it's that marked, but we could turn it on just to have a quick look. So I'm not going to do anything with the controls. And just pop outside and just see. Maybe a little bit there actually. Go this way. So I'm not doing anything with a rudder. I'll probably throttle up a bit just so we don't crash. But you can see it's not going in a straight line, it's actually going towards the left. And that's not me, that's just the plane itself. So you can keep it that way by using the yoke, obviously. But you can also use the rudders. It's a bit too heavy, but let's have a go with just a little rudder. I think I need to. A friend of mine turned his sensitivity down on his rudder. I don't blame him because it might be a little bit too deep. Brakes go around like that. Okay. Yeah, I think we need to do some more learning on that actually, because I think there's a whole exercise in learning about that ball and how that works. So you've got the plane's up, straight, level, climb and descend. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Continue. All on Star Trek mode. There you go. So what you can see is on the vertical speed indicator we're just about on 0, and you can hold it there. The plane's going to bounce around a little bit because it's not a computer. Well, it is a computer, but it's simulated not being a computer. So we're just coming up a little bit there. You can also control it, and actually more likely you control it by throttle, because you can use throttle to gain and lose height, which is cool. It means you can have very fine control. And there's also trim, but we'll come back to that. So here we go. Let's just fly straight and level for a minute while we look at the book some more. So maybe we shouldn't go into the trees. We just work on that bit first, because there's quite a lot of trees there. Head back to the runway. To make a coordinated turn, we have to do a bit more than that. So a coordinated turn, you need to begin your left bank. Oh, I think we need some height actually before I read the book a bit more. This sort of fine control is actually really good for training. You could go crazy and use the Lamborghini style and just boot it, but it's not really clever, not good for the plane. I mean, we are actually near stall speed, to be honest. You can see that on the airspeed indicator in the center. where it's on the white line, nearly on the white area. That's probably not good. Maybe we can go a little bit faster. So we also got to be careful about gaining and losing height. We don't want to be at 3,000 feet particularly. Currently at 1,000 feet, and that's a good height for the exercise we're doing today. So let's go over there. Nice plane though. Hopefully you can hear it okay. It looks like actually, I'm not sure the plane noise is coming out. Let me turn that on. Okay. And there it is. So apologies. I'm not sure why that was silenced. But, it kind of makes sense. That was me. Right. Yeah, not clever. Okay. So I think I'm going to pause it for a minute, just so we don't crash into a mountainside somewhere. So a coordinated turn. A coordinated turn is we need to begin upside down view. No, it's okay. Unless I read it upside down, you'll struggle as well. So, to make a coordinated turn, you need to begin your left bank with the stick and almost immediately add left rudder. The objective is to make the point you see on the horizon. To make the point you see on the horizon, stand still while the aircraft banks. What's that about? That's my craziness. So get back here. This is the whole section, making turns. Level of realism won't help. Look towards you a bit. Yeah. You've now gotten the plane to a flying straight and level. One of those secrets about flying, the less work you have to do, the better. Making the Cub turn is only slightly more complicated. If you have realism set to, well, we have a realism set to high actually, not standard, rather than easy. When you have to control a rudder, note some objects on the horizon directly in front of you. You then, when you're flying straight level, now bank the plane slightly to the left. Note how the nose of the airplane momentarily swings to the right before tracking to the left. When you roll the wings level with the horizon, the nose of the airplane will overshoot the runway slightly, the target slightly, and come back. Okay. Let's see if we can simulate that. Interesting. So I think you probably just do it naturally, actually, but let's just try something. So let's find a point on the horizon we quite like. That bit of grass there. Okay, so that tree, try and indicate with the mouse there. So if we bank to the left, so it goes to the right. Well, it's always going to go to the right. What's going on? What did you say, Mr. Book? Yeah. No, some objects on the right and directly in front of you, flying wings level. Now bank the aircraft to the left. Note how the nose of the plane momentarily swings right before tracking to the left. When you roll the wings level. Really? We should see that from outside. So straight and level, a bit more juice. Looking right in front of us, turn to the left.
Boston Center Savage
A bit
Alpha
hard
November
to tell.
Delta 554 is type Savage SAVG 2 miles south of 2 Bravo Niner 1,300 feet. Request flight following.
So left. Oh yeah, it is. It does a bit actually. Yeah. So straight and level.
Squawk 00 tree.
Watching the tree in front of us. Sort of. It's not really obvious. See if I can find something a bit better to spot. Quite hard, but that's because that's low, but level. So we're going for the whoa back a bit. Nelly. Okay, so 4. Right, so that river and to the left. Yeah, it does just a little bit. You can see it go just a little bit to the right before it goes left. It's not very obvious though. Maybe a bit exaggerated. Okay. So this is where we're starting to get into the real interesting bits of the book, of the training. In that, I mean, yes, we could just turn the wheel and not worry about this, but actually, what I want to do is know the aerodynamics and what's going on there. Okay, so one more. So level, straight level. Okay, and turn. Yeah, it kicks to the right and then it goes left. Of course it does, because the plane's going like that. So I'm not sure it matters too much, but from the point of view of coordinated turns, yeah, not so much there. One more time. It's a nice plane out in the background there. There, it slides to the right and then goes. Wow. Okay. So now what? We're getting very high. Where are we? 2,000 feet. Probably not going to find the runway again. Airfield again. But not to worry. So coordinating turn. Oh, that lake's yeah, that's handy. You can see it. We'll just head down a bit. That's technical term for lower, not accelerate. Okie dokie. We'll get to the end of the lake for a minute. Okay. So coordinated turn. To make a coordination, pause, because we won't go too far while we're talking. To make a coordinated turn, you need to begin your left bank with the stick and almost immediately left rudder. The object is to make the point you see on the horizon in front of the plane stand still while your airplane banks. After the bank is established, you can return to the stick in the middle and maintain just a bit of left rudder, and the airplane smoothly turns. Then it's time to roll the wings level again, move the stick to the right. I'll win it. So what are we saying here? So almost, what we're saying is to make a coordinated turn, you need to begin your left bank with the stick almost immediately and then add left rudder. And almost immediately. The objective is to make the point you see in the horizon in front of the plane stand still while the airplane banks. Okay. Maybe. Come down a bit. Over here. Click on the right. So, excuse me. Click on the right. window, we can actually do something. So come out of pause. Right, so what it's saying is bit of juice so we can stay still. Once we turn and left, oh, how does that work? So you turn and then you almost immediately, well, that's not going to work, is it? You got to, is it left rudder?
Climb and maintain flight level 280 generic 76 whiskey.
Left bank with the stick and then turn. That just makes it worse though, doesn't it? How's that going to make it stay still? If I do that, kind of doing it. Step behind. So bank and left rudder. I can't see that work. Oh, it's reversed. But it's fine for steering. If I do that and that makes more sense.
Going to 135 decimal 7 generic 76 whiskey.
Get behind the plane a bit more. Right, so if we turn and do right rudder, that would actually work better. So I think maybe this, if we've learned anything, the controls of the plane are wrong. Let's go towards that building distance. So straight and level. Straight and level. Should go up a bit in the cockpit so we can see it. Okay, so turn and right rudder. No, it's there, it doesn't work either. Turn and right rudder. That works. That does look like a real plane now. So I think these are back front. So left.
Savage 554.
And then coordinate to, so now the plane is actually banking somewhat. Yeah, you can bank the plane a lot with the rudder going the opposite direction. But we're still going high. And there we go. I need some research actually. Okay. The objective is to make the point you see on the horizon in front of the plane stand still while the airplane banks.
Generic 6 Juliet Sierra, you are 28 miles southwest. Descend and maintain 15,000
Do that, and then we give it. That doesn't really do it, does it?
9 o'clock less than 1 mile.
Oh, someone flew over me.
Report them in sight. Savage 554 traffic in sight.
There is traffic inside. Who's that? A quick look around.
Air 412 descend and maintain 2,600 feet.
I can't see him. Avoid the trees.
Maintain 2,600 feet. Air 412.
I'm not sure. I think we need to do some research, actually. I think banking to the left and right rudder actually does what the book is describing for me.
Generic 6 Juliet Sierra, you are 24 miles southwest. Descend and maintain 14,000
And that feels coordinated. And then you back off and whole plane swings to the right. So if you do a bit of left and then left rudder, you just really turn 6 minutes.
Air 412 airport is at your 10 o'clock 12 miles.
Interesting.
Maintain present
Okay.
heading and altitude report runway in sight. Air 1879 contact Boston Center on 135 decimal 7.
So what we really want to do is just coming up to an hour now, so I think that's enough for this session. Now, how do you feel about this approach? Is it too talky? Is there too much information I mean, what I'm doing really is teaching myself, not necessarily trying to teach this at you as well, but maybe it's interesting. So what we need really is an indication of where this field is. So we talk to our ATC. Oh, just waiting for air traffic control to stop talking so we can press a button. Nearest airport, I don't think there's anyone out there. Oh, Post Mills, there we go. Select runway for landing. I don't know. 25, 23. So, right, we're southwest at 1300 feet. So we got to go northeast. Oh, yeah, right over it. That was easy. 23 would be 230 degrees, which is, I don't know, 360 minus 90. I'm just doing the maths in my head badly. 1 second. Just going to pause that. Yeah, well, we can wander over there. I'm not using Google to calculate that at all. 360 minus 130. That didn't help, did it? West, southwest. Where is that useful? Southwest. Okay. I just worked that out, obviously. Southwest. So look at the old compass down the bottom there. And if I knew this, yeah, I guess I need to learn that coordinate flight because it's proper. We'll come around this way. So that I'm not sure we can land on 23. Trees are getting close. More cues. This place again. Lost it. So Post Mills is good because it has got like a circular panel. There we go. So you can use it as an indicator. There we go. So let's get down on the ground. I think we'll call it a day for today. But if anyone's watching us on video on demand or VOD, or YouTube, do drop us a line. I think that's a bad idea trying to land this close. Let's go out and get straight. And tell me what you think. Are you interested in this sort of training exercise, or I'll do it offline if you want, or I'll just sit here playing and you can decide whether you like it or not by not coming to see. But I think as the days go on, it'll be more complicated and more interesting stuff will be done. I think even the basic stuff is interesting because we've kind of learned that something's not quite right with what they say is coordinated turns in either the book or the way this plane's set up. So I'm going to go off and look at that. Plenty of YouTubes to try and work out whether that's right or wrong. Swing around and probably enough to get down and slow down a bit. Maybe I should be further away. No, be further away. It'd be too hard to get slow enough to get down. got any questions on flight sim, especially configuration wise and things like that, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert because I'm not, but we can all learn together. Also, join me on Thursdays with Grant's Games and Gears. Grant's Games and Gear on Thursday night, 7:30, 6:30 UTC PM. We're basically doing a world tour, flying in small legs, about an hour and a half, depending, around the world. Currently in Saudi, we're in Dubai actually, so we're heading off towards India next time. So it'd be cool to see you there and say hi. But for now, I think that's it. Let's just try and get this to actually land. If not, I shall just say goodbye. No, it's okay. Let's just do it. So, wish me luck. I actually quite like this plane for landing. It's very lazy. The only thing you get is quite a lot of turbulence just as you hit the hedge line or the tree line. I noticed that a few times, but that's just nature. So I'm coming down. Got nothing else going on really. It's just throttle control. This is where they tell you to try and just learn to fly a plane without using two hands on the yoke. We're just going to level it off. There we go. Engine down. And we're just going to basically try and stop before we hit those trees, which might be a bit hard. No, it could be alright. Oh, brakes. No, we blew it. Oh well, it's not the first time I've seen that happen. Thanks for watching. Let's pop you over to here. So thanks for watching. This camera is actually back to front. Crazy. Look forward to maybe I should take it off that screen because that's quite boring. Looks like I've actually died. Okay. So that's us for tonight. Thanks for joining me. I'm not sure how it came across, but I'll be welcome your comments in chat like next time we come on or other times. But thanks a lot. See you soon.